I want to first give a shout out to Rom Lills, who has a great channel called About That Business. And as you know, Rom is a contributor, longtime contributor of the NegroManosphere.com, the Black Juggernaut. He's written many, many wonderful articles, and he made a video the other day called "It's Plenty of Money in the Hood." Plenty of money in the hood. That's interesting, isn't it? Plenty of money in the hood. Rom talks about certain business ideas that can materialize for the entrepreneur. People who want to do laundromats, people who want to do certain other type of vending businesses. In the hood, it's viable. But see, Rom knows something that I know, which to our chagrin remains important for the conversation, that such entrepreneurial ideas shall never materialize. One may ask, why is that? I'm glad you asked that question. People do not want to be associated with the hood. Let me tell you, myself, I grew up in a neighborhood called Del Paso Heights. Many of you have heard me talk about it. I went to Grant High School. At the time I was coming up, Del Paso Heights was right up there with one of the worst areas in Sacramento, with Oak Park, G Parkway. It was definitely, it could be violent. It was definitely rough. My mother told me that I had the opportunity to go to college and become smart, and that I needed to get away from the hood. I needed to get away from the hood. Now, in the 90s and 80s, my brother Moses Jenkins, who went to the same church I went to, which was Mount Calvary at the time, he graduated a year younger than me. His parents probably told him the same thing. He went to Morehouse, and I came here to medical school. Now, in the 90s, Del Paso Heights was almost the majority of it was black, okay? And then you had a strong Hmong and Laos population of Asians that lived there, and some Hispanics, but predominantly it was black. Those people who were able to do so wanted to get away from some of the gangs, and you had the Elm Street Bloods, the Nogales Crips, and stuff like that. People who wanted to get away from such people were moving into some of the new subdivisions, which were not far, called Natomas, North Natomas and South Natomas. Before then, it was a neighborhood called Northgate, and then if you lived a little bit closer there, it was Westgate. So people were trying to move out. Strangely enough, as African Americans are moving out, more of Laos and Hmong and Hispanics moved in. Now, there was a popular store that was on Grand Avenue called Jimmy's. Jimmy was an older black man. He was married to a heavyset white woman. That was pretty interesting. But he made soul food. Chicken and all type of other heart disease type of foods that we liked. You can kind of get an a la carte, you know. You can go there and just, he had a whole bunch of nasty beans there. You just put them on the thing and give them $5. You end up sick, but it was worth it, right? It was just what it was. Jimmy died. There was nobody to take the business. So Jimmy's sold to an Asian store. Now, what's interesting is that the Asian store didn't change the name. But the Asian store, which ended up selling worse soul food than Jimmy, they actually kept everything, the menu, and they started selling soul food and weave and all types of other god awful food that they had there. And This became more evident when you go to places like Rainbow Market, which was owned by Arabs, and gas stations that were owned by Indians, and you started to see this repetitive cycle that you start to see in a lot of black neighborhoods, that it's plenty money in the hood, but the sad reality is you don't want it. Let's talk about even on the internet, where you have access to Wi-Fi and high-speed coaxial cables, and you could be anywhere in the world talking to people. You have things like Black YouTube. And you have things like the Black Manosphere, places that you have spaces in social media that you can come in and you can get paid for your content, and you can do all things. You can create your own niches and spaces. But most oftentimes what you'll hear people say is, I don't want to do anything for black people. It's ghetto, and it's too much there. I'd rather be doing something else. Now, I can't say that's always not the truth, but, people say that about rap music, and people say that about other things. People say that about the way that we dress. But don't you know, sure enough, as you leave these sources of income that you have, that you can build for yourself, other groups of people come right there. Even last night, we talked about Africa. And let me just say this, I'm working with my brother Phil from the Advice Show on the Kinganda series. We have been trying to boost it there and trying to touch it up and get it better. Doing business in Africa is difficult. It is the hardest thing that you can do, in my opinion. In Africa is really difficult. But people who are from there and have skill sets there find themselves in the West, remaining in Canada, Switzerland, Germany, or France, in the UK. And they persuade people, some of them, never to come back. You should never go there. Tell African Americans you shouldn't go. But meanwhile, here are the Lebanese. Let me talk about my flight from Vienna, Austria to Ethiopia. There was the majority white and Chinese. But I thought that would change coming from Ethiopia to Entebbe. But to my chagrin, I'm still seeing white and Chinese. And all over the world where black people are at, there's plenty of money and business to be made there. And the synopsis is, I'm sad to report, you don't want it. Not even on Black YouTube, not even on Black podcasts, not even on Black business channels. That you don't even waste your time trying to create content, niche content for your people, because you just don't like them that much. So much so that you would rather lose an opportunity than gain it by specializing in something that your people could support, but do something else. And then at the same time, when you get mad when you don't have anything, you cry about it. I just don't understand this. I just don't get it. Plenty of money in the hood. You see everybody, that other groups that want to do anything financially lucrative, they do two things. One thing is they control the economics in their community, which we all know. That's the first thing. But the second part is going into other people's communities who are not either competent enough or have no desire to run those communities themselves. And that's how you really take over. Now, we know that blacks and Africans are competent. That's not the question. But here's the second part. You don't want to be associated with where you're at. So you would rather be somewhere else. So no problem. Here comes every other group of people that are going to be where you are not and take care of your business and control your economy while paying people low and treating them like dirt. And I've seen this happen specifically on the continent of Africa all the time, because you don't want money in your hood or in the hood or where you're from. I'm talking about the hood as far as your country, your neighborhood, wherever you come from. And then you get mad and you get upset. And all of this comes to my ideology of self-hatred. It has to be. You know, I honestly can never go anywhere and want to do anything if I feel that my own people cannot support me. And I feel that many blacks feel that that's the case, and they have feel that they've been mistreated, and we have ostracized a lot of our blacks. But we have to understand that there is a plenty of money and economy enough to go around that we can believe in, whether that's in Black America, whether that's in other parts of the world, in Africa, wherever it is, you got to believe that you can do it where you're at. And the reason why you got to believe it, because other people believe they can come into where you're at and do it. The Chinese are doing it. I think Sean James wrote an article for me, and he said there are Chinese barbers now coming into black neighborhoods cutting hair. Imagine that. 30 years ago, you would never see that. Dominican barbers coming into black neighborhoods. Everybody comes into where you at, but you can never go where they at, do anything. They're not going to let you do that. And we got to be honest as people and say, do we really dislike ourselves that much to the point that we don't even want to do nothing where we at, our own economies? Like people say all the time, you don't have to live there. And that's true. You know, people want to use a Nipsey Hussle situation. Oh, you see what happens when you live around. Listen. Everybody else does it. Hispanics do it. And now, I believe what Brother Ramil was talking about, the Hispanic community has more people, if I'm not mistaken, buying houses than anybody else. Why? Controlling the commerce in their communities, going to other communities, most notably the black ones, where you're not at, setting up business and controlling it. Plenty of money in the hood, but you don't want it. Guys, go check out Ron Will's video. It's going to be at the first comment. Check it out. I really appreciate you brothers for coming on and listening today. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, all of that. Good to see you brothers. As you guys know, the buffoonery remains an all-time high. I'm out.